Hello everybody. We're going to break it down old school today. We're streaming off of my cell phone this evening, so it's going to be one wonderful high production environment. We had a computer issue earlier last week and caused some downtime with the plasma bed, and the plasma computer that we use with our CNC operation is the same one we use for live streaming, and so therefore we had to do a whole bunch of malarkey to get things back up and running and in good shape for the plasma side of things, but we haven't worked on all the tech issues to get the live streaming back up and going for our professional setup for live stream. So hopefully everybody can hear me okay. I'll try to project if you cannot hear me, and yeah, we're gonna make some tongs tonight.
Yeah. Dana says, great way to end a crazy week.
Amen to that. It's been a nut house around here for a couple weeks. So I am certainly glad to be moving on.
Stephen Parson, hello to you too. Eric, hello.
Hello, hello.
Rob Huff says we can start now because he's here.
Hey, Rob. You're just the guy we were waiting on. Oh.
David C. says hello from Central Missouri.
Hello, hello.
James Haas says, just found out this was on tonight.
Well, good to have you here.
Hello, Keith.
Hey, Keith.
Hi, Dana.
Dana, hello, hello.
Geoengineering is evil, hello.
Hello, hello.
Bill Wool, hello.
Bill, good to see you, brother. Well, not see you, but, hear your name come up in the comment section anyway.
No, you're here in spirit.
Until I can see gravel out my driveway again. So, which is not for a few more months yet.
Bill Will says spring is here already. It's t-shirt weather, 60 degrees tomorrow.
Woo!
You got a warm day.
That is crazy. All right, I'm gonna hot rasp this little bar off. Nothing real important going on here. I'm just prepping the stock for the other end of what I will be showing and demonstrating. I'm just using a file to take off this nub and make a little roll nub I don't like on the end. I don't want that to come up hot shut later on in the work. I might actually jump up to the larger rasp. Take one more quick little heat on that and take it up to the larger rasp.
There we go. Rich Hartley says hello from Martinsville, Indiana. We love you guys here.
Hey,
awesome.
Thank you.
Rob says, are you sure you don't want to trade that woo sound for a rhythmic beep, beep, beep sound?
Oh, God, no. Nope, not a chance. One day when I'm on life support, I'll trade that for that. So, but not anytime soon.
Dana says it was 13 degrees when he got up this morning.
Whew. Yeah, it wasn't too cold here. Not too bad. We didn't. I don't know. I mean, anything above 0 is great. It's good. Good weather. Gets below 0, everything's just kind of that face biting cold. So, 15 to 18 degrees is pretty warm. It's not too bad. Then you get above the 20s and it start, after spending all that time in 15 and 18 degree weather, it feels like you're warming up. It's like, oh man, it's spring. We're going to be swimming here soon. There we go. That's the action. Makes it look more impressive for the YouTube. See all the sparks come off.
Ben Toombs, we did move. It's not an experience we soon want to repeat either. With all the stuff we have, yeah.
Yeah. Nope. Next time I move was when I'll be filthy rich. So That's never. Because I'm going to have to be filthy rich because I'm going to pay somebody else to move everything. I'm not touching a thing. So.
You very well may be filthy, and you could be renamed rich.
Yeah, I can do that. I can do that.
In case you ever need an excuse to move, that'll be the one you can go to.
Let's see. That would be a great excuse, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. All right.
Keith says, I was a tad late to the stream. What type of tongs and starting stock size?
Okay, so I was just getting ready to get into that. So it's a great question. Years and years and years and years ago, in fact, I created these during doing an entire tong making video, an entire tong making series with a method that I had developed of forging tongs out of 1/4x1 flat bar stock. So you can make it a little heavier. 3/8 by 1 is a good size, but technically 5/16 is about perfect. If you can get 5/16 by, say, 1-inch bar stock, that's like your sweet zone. But 1/4x1 is readily available. So I was showing the world at large, this is in the infancy of YouTube, how I like to make my tongs with flat bar stock. And I developed these little hook rules. And I'll bring them up to the camera here since we're on the regular cell phone. You'll have to tell me if I'm in focus or
Yeah, just hold it there for a second.
people can focus in on that and stuff.
Give me a second. Come on, camera, focus. Keep tapping, but it doesn't do it. Let me try
Right here.
again. Okay, maybe that'll help.
Contrast.
There we go.
based.
There we go.
So, okay. So these hook rules, basically I came up with the exact measurements that I liked for my layout. I don't know if they can see my face or not, but basically I came up with some center punch marks and made a little hook rule that I could hook on the end of my bar, and I could just transfer the layout punch marks each and every time to keep my tongs consistent as I made them. If I ever wanted to make another pair in the future, I developed these hook rules to do that. And so I developed those, and so we're making out a 1/4x1 flat bar stock, and I've got them actually labeled. I've got these labeled as flat jaw tongs. There's longer ones for pickup jaws. They have the right amount of length for the 1/4x1 material to have the exact amount of volume that's needed for the nib. So all that information is stored on my story stick here, this little hook rule. You just hook it on your bar stock and transfer your punch marks, your layout punch marks, and you're off and you're good and going. So one we're working on tonight is we're going to be making a pair of scrolling jaw tongs. And that's not the only thing we'll be doing tonight, but we'll get to that here in a second. But so as you can see, this is my hook rule, hopefully they can see all right, for my scrolling jaw tongs. And this required a lot less material than the flat jaw. The flat jaws take about 1 inch. I found that 3/4 of an inch was optimum. So it's 3/4 inch, 3/4 of an inch in from the end of the 1/4x1 flat bar stock is all you need to make a really nice pair of scrolling jaw tongs for the jaw itself. So if I pull that up there, can they see that all right? Mm-hmm. So that's what 3/4 of an inch of 1/4x1 stretches out to. It makes about the perfect amount for the nibs of a scrolling jaw tong. So then I figured out exactly, which turns out 7/8, they're about 7/8 of an inch back, just shy of a cube of material, works out perfect, or a square of material if you're working on flat material, works out about perfect for the boss area to make a really nice, pleasant looking boss to the eyes. And then beyond that, that's your, I've got other layout marks that's where you draw out your reins from, and you can make those however long you want, and you can make them as long, you make as long handled or short handled as, you see fit. And so basically I just made up these hook rules. But I wanted to show those off. Two purposes. One, because we're going to be using it during the layout. And two, is because I'm actually thinking about adding these with the preset blowout points, like notches in it, to the website under the tooling category, if there is enough interest in that. So let us know, give us some feedback on that. If there is, then I will spend the time to draw these up and put them on the website. Like I said, I've already figured out all the math that's necessary by trial and error of making the perfect jaw, having the right amount of material for the tong lid. So if that's something people are interested in, let me know and I'll add it to the website. If not, I'm not going to waste my time doing it because I've got the cheat sheet, so I'm happy to keep it to myself. If that's what need be. So, but regardless of that, the thing I'd like to share this evening is about the importance of making some story sticks in your shop. This isn't rocket science, right? I developed these off of known measurements that worked out and got me an exact result of what I was after. That being said, it took some experimentation. But once I found out what I really liked, I locked in those measurements and I recorded them on a story stick of some kind. So that way, I'm guaranteed to always be able to come back and make an exact duplicate pair every time, because the volume doesn't change. Unless you cut something extra off or you burn it off in the fire, the volume of the material doesn't change. It's the same regardless. So it's constantly fixed. So I know that when I'm looking at these are for 1/4x1 flat bar stuff. Now if you were working with 5/16 by 1 or 3/8 by 1, these numbers would have to change to suit yourself, right? You would have to record your own story stick of what exact measurements for layout you need to end up with a final product that you're happy with. I use this type of stuff all the time in my shop. Story sticks, storyboards. I've got rings of just different processes from making collars to tenons. My shop's loaded with this type of stuff. And this is what allows you to walk into the shop and say, okay, hey, I want to make a pair of scrolling tongs today. And you don't have to start at square one of saying, well, what size material do I need? Well, how much material do I actually need to forge out to get a good size pair of, nibs on there? You don't have to do any of that, and that's all been recorded for you because that was past you helping future you out in the long run. So get yourself or make yourself a bunch of story sticks.
Ben Toombs says, great idea, Roy.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Ben. So, whoop. All right. So I'm going to use this. Again, the reason why it's a hook rule is so I can hook it on the very edge or that square end of the bar, and I can start recording my marks. So I will set my center punch. Actually, why don't you bring that camera up? That's a perfect idea. So right now, I don't have to think about what was on the other side, right? I don't have to think about all the steps I went through. And wait a minute, what measurement was that again? How much did I stick over the edge of the anvil for that boss? How much did I leave on the anvil to forge down the nibs? How do I do all that? It's all recorded on the story stick. You just pull that up close to the edge. You find your mark thereabouts. I'm going to pull this out of the way just so I can punch it. And give yourself a meaningful layout mark so you can find it again. And we'll put that scroll jaw tong back up there. And we're going to find out exactly where we're going to forge our boss or take our reins down. We're going to go right there. Looks like it's holding right by itself. That's nice. So we know we're going to forge directly across. Too much. There we go. Somewhere between those two lines. Good enough. Had to move a punch mark. Got it a little out of sync. So as you can see, right, now I've got my layout. This mark here is going to go on the anvil. So that means I'm going to take it to the near side edge of the anvil. I'm going to stand it up like so. and I'm going to forge with half on, half off blows, and that's going to become my jaws. Then I'm going to take it over to the far side edge of the anvil, stick it up like so, or opposite of the jaws, and then I'm going to forge half on, half off blows to set down my boss. And it's just that quick. And I can repeat that a zillion times over. So if I was wanting to make these for a living, or production run some tongs out, this is a great way of doing it. And again, 1/4x1 has plenty of volume to create a nice thick pair of jaws that are good for medium to light duty work. 1/4x1, it has just enough volume for the medium to light duty stuff. Obviously, if you're going to deal with a lot thicker material that you're going to be trying to hold and stuff, you got to start with thicker material for jaws, for tongs and stuff. But that's how that works. So now I'm going to heat this up, and we'll stay in close. Well, we'll come back close again when I do the forging. How does that sound, huh?
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Any questions?
See, Rob Huff says, I didn't pass a math test once because I told the teacher my show your work portion was trial and error.
Yeah, that's not rewarded very much in school, so. But in the blacksmith shop, it's crucial. I am not, I used to kind of feel bad about it. I don't now. I've been at it long enough now that I'm just kind of happy with my current level of ignorance in the trade. Like, I'm fine with myself, you know. I don't have to know calculus or, you know, trigonometry or whatever to know how to make a good collar, right? You might be able to do all the volume calculations, all the math in the world, and you really suck at making collars, and you're going to overforge it, and it's going to stretch too long, or it'll be too short, it'll be whatever. I'm just going to find the right size volume that works, and I'm going to make test pieces until I find something that's the most efficient for the project that I'm doing. To heck with all the rest of the stuff. So some could say, well, that's less efficient. It's better to get close with the math, right? Use math to get really close. And that's a valuable thing if you can do that quickly. It's something I struggle with, so I'd much rather just get on with it to the project and spend my time at the forge and anvil figuring it out. So developing the muscle memory. So I'd rather do that. So that's my preference when it comes out to stuff. And when I find something that works, I make a story stick so I don't have to remember it all up here in this noodle all the dang time. I will make a story stick, or I will make a fixture, or I'll make a jig, and I'll record the information on that fixture or jig, so this way I know how to do it again a zillion times over. If a customer asks me to do so 20 years from now, I'll still be okay. So we can go over to the anvil, Jess.
Hello, Rigid Ironworks.
Hello, hello. So we're going to find that first dot, which is on the left-hand side here. We'll put that on the anvil edge, and we're going to stand her straight up. And use half on, half off blows. I'm not correcting the width because I want to have basically some square material to round up. One thing I'll point out to you, the newer guys out there, it is important not to overforge things. So don't take things to final dimension all in one step. Take your time and forge in stages. Now I'm getting way down into colder heat right now. But I'm not really forging anything. Right now I'm just planishing off that jaw of that tong to as close to finished as I can get her there. I'm going to probably take one more heat to take it that rest of excellence there. Let me see how quickly I was able to pull that down into a nice jaw of a scrolling tong. Now, it's not as smooth as that one because I took more planishing heats to get this one as smooth. Now, some might ask, Well, what do you do if the jaws don't come up? You did all that, you got all your layout work, and you got one jaw longer than the other. Cut it off. It's that simple. Grind it back so it matches the other. Don't waste your time too much on that. That means you're human, you're not a robot, and that means your pursuit of blacksmithing is pure at that point. So don't worry about it. So now we've got 2 marks here. We've got 2 marks here. One here, one here. We went to the near side. Now we're going to lay it where we can see the marks. And we're going to go to the far side, and we're going to set our jaw down. Set our boss down. And begin to draw back draw the reins. When I say I developed this method, I've developed this method a long while ago. It's been used by a lot of people since my infancy on YouTube, but I've been using it for years prior to YouTube because I was looking at a better way, in my opinion, than the turn method that is a traditionally taught method of making tongs. And I just thought to myself, well, that kind of all seems, that's all well and fine, but is there a quicker way to get to that shape, that classic tong shape? And so after just studying it, you know, as far as just studying how one half of a pair of tongs looks, I said, well, why can't you just start with material that's the correct thickness of the boss you're looking for and just forge the nibs and forge the reins? It just made sense. And let me be real clear about something. When I say I developed this, what I mean by that is nobody came into my shop and taught me how to do this. This is something I was studying as I'm a constant student of blacksmithing and forging work. It was something that I was looking at and I developed in my shop. So doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't come up with the same idea. Maybe other people have, they probably have for centuries. But my point is I developed this method and then I shared it on the world of YouTube, and now since it has caught on, there has been quite a few folks who have used this method, and I'm proud to say that I helped contribute to that, which is awesome. If I can help anybody get started into the world of blacksmithing and get to forging faster, more efficiently, well, that's what I'm all about. So I have to put those preferences out there because some people, way back in the day, people used to take me as a pretty arrogant man. they thought I was pretty arrogant because I'd say things like, oh, I developed this, or you know what I mean? Like, I came up with this. It was took it out of context. I wasn't saying I am the greatest ever. I'm the guy to beat. No one has come up with better ideas than me. That wasn't what I was saying at all. I was saying that I developed it through my study of smithing in my own shop. I was thinking about this, actively trying to work on solving a problem in my own shop. I didn't like the method, the traditional method of left, or right, turning. I didn't like that. I felt like that was too slow for me, and I wanted a faster way of making tongs in the shop. So,
Jeff Killian says, I use your stuff all the time.
Very awesome. I'm glad it helps you.
Rob Huff says, yeah, we have a pair of antique tongs made from flat bar.
Yep.
Robert,
pretty common, right? It's a common thing. People made them from flat bar. So.
Robert Lana says, how's the hand?
Oh, good. So, didn't lose a fingernail. It's good to go. So, not too bad. Thank you for asking.
Speargrass said if he heated his anvil, he'd be more efficient too.
Oh yeah,
Burn
I
the
preheat
pot.
that anvil. I'd be so efficient right now. I'd already been done. We could have ended the stream 20 minutes ago. Not.
Rob says, did you pull a Thomas?
Not quite. I actually got my, I had bought to do some logging work, to pull logs out. We got pretty swampy grounds up here. I bought a crawler, and it's a little tracked. It's a little old 1946 Oliver crawler. So it's a tracked vehicle, and I was working on getting it up and running. I bought it used and not running very good, and so I was busy working on tuning it up, putting a belt on, that sort of stuff. And anyways, it was up and running, and I just happened to get my fingers. I was trying to adjust the throttle, basically the throttle body on the carburetor, and I got my fingers, I guess the fan blade stuck out a little further than I thought, and ended up getting these 3 fingers whaled by the fan about 1,000 times in a row. So that was no bueno. Not fun at all. And I really thought I had broke them. This one is still sore. This one, my middle finger is still very tender. So my guess is I probably put a little fracture on the tip of this finger, but the rest of them, once the swelling went down, they were okay. But good reminder to keep your hands out of places they don't belong. Like a running engine.
He said you forgot the first rule of machinery, LOL.
Yeah, I forgot the first rule of machinery. I was just in a rush. I was in a rush to get it done before the live stream and finish my tuning and stuff, and then of course that ruined that live stream and turned it into just a hangout stream.
Mark Peterson says, my wife loves the trivets with the copper accents.
Oh, very awesome.
Robert Nolan says, is there a reason for a stone floor versus a concrete?
I like stone a little bit better than, I like stone a lot better than concrete, but generally speaking, a stone floor or a brick floor, that's just a way of making a hard surface, a wear-resistant surface that you can walk on from yesteryear, right? Like that's for the old school way of doing it. Concrete's the modern method because you can pour it and it comes up like solid and flat, and you can draw on it, and you can roll tooling and equipment around on concrete, and so it's seen by some as being probably the more superior option on things. I have worked on stone floors. I have also worked on brick and cob. And if you can think about your feet in a way of like what is softest for your feet to stand on, concrete is terrible. Concrete is terrible for your back. It's terrible for human beings were not made to stand on concrete. Our whole body structure is not made to stand on a perfectly flat surface for 8-10 hours a day. So my preference would be something that has a little bit of unevenness in it. I have a gravel shop floor. It's just as flame retardant as any other floor, concrete, stone, or brick. I would love to put in here, specifically, I would have nothing but brick in here, like a beautiful herringbone pattern brick floor. Like, that's kind of my ultimate goal, but I gotta find like bricks for cheap. And then take the time to do that, But as far as serviceability, concrete's way easier. Has a lot more serviceability than, a brick or stone floor does, just because you gotta pluck stones and things settle, and you're not gonna have a perfectly flat surface. It's gonna be, have undulations in your shop floor, so not as conducive to moving heavier machines around and stuff. So, there's your advantages and disadvantages on a hot take. All right, let's go to Ample, Jess.
All right.
Technically, it was ready for like 10 minutes, but so this is going to have some scale come off. So we did this portion. Now we're going to turn it 180. We're going to raise it up and use some half-on, half-off blows and back draw the tong reins away. And you can see I've got those humps there. Take radius those off. Take the raise back down to original parent bar thickness. And again, you can adjust and play with this as much as you want. And in the words of Brian Brazil, you want it perfect, make it perfect. Give a little quote there for Rob. I can play with this a bit more. Just till you get the look you're after. There you go. Can we see how that turned out?
Yeah.
So 2 heats, for those who care about such things. 2 heats, I have a fully finished, and I do mean finished, jaw. It's done. So the nib's done, the boss is done, part of the reign's done. Now it's just drawing material out. Can they see that whole thing?
Yep.
So from here on out, it's just working out the rein material. Deciding how much rein I want and drawing it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I purposely chose a bar of material, some random length. It was just a piece of scrap I had laying. I chose to do it on 1 bar, tong on either end, just to take and show how you can get uniformity even without looking at the other tong half. Just by having good layout and repeating the processes, keeping the processes the same. Now, say if I forged this side by hand, and I forged this side over here under power hammer or press, you're gonna have totally 2 different looks. A press and a power hammer is a lot more efficient at stretching this out than what I am by hand. And it's gonna have a totally different feel to it. You'll let it get away from you, and maybe your tong nibs are twice as long. Or maybe the boss is twice as wide, or, vice versa. You can kind of figure it out there. But if your methods are the same and your volume doesn't change, that means you didn't cut a piece off, you didn't cut extra off one side and then forge it out, right? It will always come up to the same. So if your methods are the same and your volume is the same, you'll end up with this same exact product each and every time. So if my methods start here at this portion of the anvil, not on the horn, that changes. If I'm starting here and I did the work to draw down these nibs, this will be the same as drawing down those nibs each and every time. These will come out the same. If I put 40 hammer blows or 140 hammer blows into making this, if I put 140 hammer blows starting with the same amount of volume into making this, they will come out exactly the same. Because the volume doesn't change, it just gets redistributed. Is the best way to think about that. So, hopefully this is helping somebody out there think about smithing. A little bit different. These are just observations. Well, observations and facts, because it's a fact. If nothing changes, then you'll get the same exact thing each and every time. So as you can see, I forged this a little thinner. I got a bit more of a step here than I have here. So I need to work this material down a little bit to meet that. I just didn't put as much hammer work into this side as what I've done this. So I'm going to take 1 more heat to doctor that up. Then I'll have roughly the same length still, and I can cut the bar off and I can draw out reins.
Troy's here. He says
Troy.
Michelle's recovering from surgery.
Oh, I didn't know she was in surgery. I hope she's doing okay.
Let's see. Rob Huff says we used that quote last night.
Yeah?
You want it perfect, make it perfect. Let's see. Keith says, have you seen the wood floors made from offcuts of dimensional lumber? You'd lay them like pavers with sand in the gaps. Wood on the end actually is pretty fire retardant.
Yep, cob floor. That's what they call it, cob floor. I don't know if they have another name for it. I've always heard referred to as a cob floor. Like a cob house isn't actually made out of corn cob or anything like that. It's made out of log grounds. It's a cob house, same thing. Laying out log grounds on the floor and then packing them in with a paver, like paver gravel or sand. Yeah. I've heard they're very well. The one I've worked on before was definitely older, much older, and it was kind of weird. It was like walking on a deck, like a concrete wooden deck. I don't know. It's a hard thing to explain. It was weird. It was like a different, it was like more solid than like a wooden deck, right? Or like wood floors in your house. It was more solid, so there was less give there. But it had all the warmth of like wood kind of type deal. You know, it just had a tiny bit of spring to it. It was nice. It was a nice floor to work on. It wasn't too bad at all, so.
Keith says, forget the name of the smith, but there's one that had a good video on mass. A 4-inch piece of 1/4 by 1 is the same as a 1-inch cube. Gave a good aspect of envisioning material needed for a project.
Oh, cool. Yeah, well, and that goes to show you, right? Like, so, let's say you're wanting to make something. Say you have a vision in your mind, you want to make a particular item. But the way you originally envision it was with a particular size bar stock. And you walk out to your shop and you realize, well, darn it, I don't have that type of bar stock. Well, if you know how to calculate the volume, that's where math could come in handy, right? If you know what type of like volumes are in stuff, you know, maybe you were thinking, oh, well, this needs to be 1 inch square by whatever long, and that 1 inch square by 4 inches long is the same equivalency, right? You could get the same thing with a thinner piece of material that's twice as long, right? And maybe you just lop it back a little bit. And then you didn't have to do all the forging of the 1 inch square by 4 inches long because you're already part of the way there, right? And you still have enough volume to continue the process that you were going to go after in the first place. So a good rule of thumb for me, I think, like if you're going to use round material or square's a little on the heavier side, but if you're going to use round material or square material to make tongs, I don't suggest you go under 5/8 material, 5/8 of an inch. Like, I say that's like pretty much the bottom line, because if you go thinner than that, if you go smaller than that, there's just not enough volume to get a thick enough boss to hold up to the rigors of tongs. You know, you'll get a lot of bending of jaws and stuff like that. You'll get a pretty weak, you know, jaw joint after it's all said and done. So that's where I would say 5/8, right? But it might very well be that since I'm right at the minimum here, this works out to about the same in 5/8 of the material. My measurements might work out the same, but just different, right? With 5/8 material. 5/8 square versus 1/4 by 1. But those measurements will get adjusted a little bit because of the volume. I have to do more drawing in one direction, whereas I didn't have to do as much here. But it might have the same amount of volume. So if I could shortcut the process and get more to the final result, where I don't have to draw out a flat blank and then forge that out into a pair of tongs, right? I don't have to forge out a flat plane and then change that into a pair of tongs and then still have to draw out all that square material. I could get there a little quicker with the flat material and make those shape of tongs. So, yeah, volume is very interesting.
Uh-huh.
Volume is definitely an interesting thing. Trying to figure it out, calculate it, calculate the universe.
He said the guy's name is, let's see here, Patrick Tokar? Or no, Daniel Tokar.
Daniel Tokar. Okay, yeah. I've heard of him before. This channel. All I'm doing here is just cleaning up and making one side look like the other. Or, well, as close to that as I can anyhow.
Take care, Speargrass.
Take care, Speargrass. See you later, Adam. good to me. Good enough for a rough pair of tongs. What's that, 3 heats?
I think so.
There you go. 3 heats per side, 6 heats per pair so far. If you're wanting to calculate heats as a metric, looks pretty good, in my estimation.
Hello, Paul Fontanini.
Hello, Paul. So now the only thing left to do is basically just find the center of this, mark it off, and then draw out the reins
Alrighty.
to any length that seems about right. Or I can measure from tip to portion here, tip to back here, or more accurately, you can measure from the heel of both bosses back and get roughly the same amount of volume either way. So you measure that back. But usually if you do an overall, that's close enough. So like I might cut something like this, I might come back, you know, yay in here, somewhere right there. Do the same thing. Let my eyes be the guide, say maybe 4 inches across the flat there. Do something like that, chop them off, and forge them. You know, and see how close I get. Maybe back a little bit, somewhere in there. And then just see how close, you know, the tongs come out.
Tim O'Connor, Spencer Coots, good evening.
Hello, hello. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Oh. Again, didn't look at one or the other. Those are all made using the hook rules. So just, I already had pre-laid out dots. They gave me the volume I needed to make the right sized boss I needed, to make the right sized jaw I needed. I could flip around, I could do that for my wolf jaw tongs. I could do that for pickup tongs. I could do that for flat jaws. These are rivet tongs. Again, bolt jaw tongs, and then finally box jaw tongs, the right amount of length to make a pair of box jaw tongs out of the whole ordeal. And this volume here, say, you know, when I'm talking about box jaw tongs, this volume that I've set out for the box jaw tongs, that's the correct volume that once everything's forged flat and drawn out, that you can cut and bend back the nibs and make a pair of box jaws. So I actually have those box jaws. Let me grab them real quick. You guys stay put.
Oh, and Tim O'Connor says he has that on paper, the PDF. Yeah, we do have a PDF of that at our website.
So that's the correct length to make these. Now these were made out a little different, but this is the type of box jaw tongs I'm talking about. You see how I've split it and drove these back? So that's the style tong I'm talking about. And this is the exact length, same thing, drawn out, is the correct length to make the top jaw. To make it in this bolt style for box jaw fashion. Pretty simple, huh?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mystic Mountain, good evening.
Hello? Yeah, we do have these in PDF format, don't we?
Yeah, we did. Or we do.
We do, don't we?
Yeah, the digital downloads are real easy to find at our website. We've got them under the digital download section.
Yeah. I'm going to show this punch mark in another thing over here. So I'll just hold it up, I guess.
Okay.
So you guys can see, I use that same punch out layout method when figuring other tongs out. I mark off the exact amount of volume that's needed to make the jaw that I'm after, the boss that I'm after, and then the rest becomes the tong handle length. Now, I am not one, I do not care how long the tong handles are. How long or short. If they're too long, I cut some off, right? If they're too short, well, draw more out, right? And end up with a little thinner reins. Where that matters, where the length, total length, overall length of your starting stock size matters, is if you're trying to make everything uniform in your shop. So let's say you're trying to achieve all 12-inch long tongs. You need to forge 1/2 that you're after with all the metrics, all the layout marks for your jaws, your boss, right, where you're going to start your reins at, okay, and how thick you're going to draw it, and draw out one piece start to finish. with a particular size, say 8 inches long. You start with 8 inches of material and you forged all of this out of 8 inch. Does it come up to 12 inches? And are you happy with it? It's going to come out to a lot more than 12 inches if you use something like this. But are you happy with it? If it came out to 12 inches exact, you record that. So now you know you start with whatever particular size material and you forge that 8-inch length with those specific measurements, and you'll come out with a 12-inch long rein. And so then all of your tongs can be uniform. That's really helpful if you're going to go and do a lot of demonstrating. So if you're going to go around and demonstrate, it's nice to know that you can fit your tongs in your toolbox, right? You don't have to carry them loose. Excuse me, about to sneeze.
Oh.
Oh. What's going on there, beautiful?
Robert Lannis says, are those the same tongs you made at the bar run gathering?
Yeah, a little different variant of them, but yeah, same type. Yep. Oh, they're very efficient. It's a very efficient way of coming out with a pair of tongs. I encourage everybody to try it once. It's an easy way of dividing material and coming up with a pair of tongs very quickly. In a nutshell. So.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, Tim O'Connor. He says shipping.
Hey, thank you.
Shipping tip per usual.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Tim. Really appreciate it. Oh, well, I might as well measure this off, eh?
Uh-huh.
Find a spot in the middle.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to show everybody, let's see, it's 12-ish. Call it 12 and a half to that spot. It's just a rando spot here. 12 and a half, dang, I'm bang on. Figured out what middle is. Hee-hee. So I've got some advice for all you guys who math and measure too much. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice. Unsolicited, of course, but you're on my channel, so you get what you get. Oh, so my unsolicited advice for all you folks out there, and you guys that math too much. Human bodies, our brain is practically wired. It is wired to look for similarities. So we are literally, at our core, we are wired to look for similarities and irregularities within a system, whether that be in the wild or in the environment. Like if we're out hunting, right, and there's a bear in the thing, if you ain't got the iTunes playing in your ears, right, we are wired to find inconsistencies and see things that are like, oh, that's crooked, we don't like that, right? And it bugs us. It bugs us if one thing's straight and the other one's, it bugs you to death, right? And we can use the reverse of that to find out what's truly square and what's naturally centered. And you'll find if you don't second guess yourself, and you just look at a piece and you say, yep, that's center. Test yourself. Measure. And I almost guarantee you, within a fraction of an inch, it'll be dead center that you're looking for. To visually see what square is, right? Something that's plumb or true or square. You just have to trust your instincts. That's square. This back edge is square. And if I were to take a square to that right now, a speed square, do I have one? It's going to ruin my analogy. Well, this block is dead square. I got this machined block that's dead square. I said this was dead square. Say I'm not lying. I'm going to hold my finger here. I'm going to put that block up. Look at that. Bam. dead square. I did that by eye. It's not because I'm some smithing genius. There's no genius here going on. I'm just using my eyeballs that God gave me to decide what square is, what is plumb, what is true, what is straight. Use your eyes. When you go to a lumber yard, you sight down a piece of board. It's an old carpenter's trick. Why? Because your eyes will tell you if that board's got a warp or a twist in it. You just go like this. Arms led, close your non-dominant eye, boom, you found if it's curved in one way or the other. And you'll be able to make a better, plumber, truer structure than that. But if I move this off square, your eyes know it. They know it instantly. So the reverse of that is true. So you can save a boatload of time wondering, like, is this the same size as this? You don't have to even whip out a measurement tool. Just don't second guess your eyes. What your eyes are telling your brain and what your brain's telling you. If something looks out, it's probably because it is. We are hardwired as human beings to see square and true and not square things. So if you're running, like for chisels, best way to test yourself on this. Say, okay, I want to come. This is why you look at the back edge of a chisel and not behind a chisel. You can't decide what's square or true this way if this is facing me. But if I come this way, I can find out whether I'm dead center or not. And now I can hit it with full force, knowing that I'm dead in the center of this bar. And I don't have to lay this out. I don't have to do any special scribing. None of that. I can just go straight to town and work like this, just by sight and knowing what's right. I can look at the thickness here and tell that it's similar to the thickness here. It's not the same. This is a bit thinner. That's a bit thicker. I instantly know that just by looking at it by eye. You can do that too, yourself. All you have to do is just trust your eyes of what you're seeing. And you too can do the same exact thing. There's no real magic to it. And people are like, wow, man, he cut that off perfectly at the exact spot. He or she must know what they're doing. Whoa! They must have been a master for decades, right? And no, you're just using that God-given human intelligence in the ability to see exactly what's true and square. Just like you don't have to pull out some sort of meter to tell whether something's smooth or something's rough, right? You don't have to pull out a meter. Smooth, rough, easy. Your brain tells you. You trust your brain, right? You trust your feelings of your thing. Oh, that's smooth. That's rough. Well, trust your eyeballs in the same way, and you will be able to forge a lot more speedily that way, and not have to constantly be whipping out a tape measure. So.
Keith says, we have a bunch of smart remarks at work in the cabinet shop, like half inch out of square, we don't care, or good enough for who it's going to, or looks good for my house, etc., etc.
Oh, yeah. Well, just like rules of thumb, right? You know, like, oh, yeah, that's about right. You know, you can do that. You can use rules of thumb. You can check stuff out. You say, oh, okay, hey, yeah, that's roughly the size that I'm going for. That's about right. I'm just cold cutting this. I could hot cut it, but...
Jeff Killian says we had a supervisor once that would say, we ain't making pacemakers.
That's a good way of saying it, so...
Or Keith, I'm here for the income, not for the outcome.
I'm here for the... He said he's here for the income, not for the outcome?
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Lord and behold, looky there.
There it be.
She's almost dead on it. This one's just a touch. longer, which would make sense. So these nibs are the same, the boss is the same, but this one sticks out a touch longer because I forged that one out a bit more. You can see a bit more volume right here than there is here. So this one's been stretched a little longer than that one, but they're roughly the same. Put that together, and I have a beautiful pair of tongs.
Yippers.
Not too shabby, huh?
No. How far are you taking these? Are you drilling them or?
Well,
doing
what time
anything
is
else?
it?
It is 5:58.
5:58.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Mhm.
I'm making good time, ain't I?
You're making
In
good
good time. Oh. I'm going to draw the reins out a little bit. I won't drill these and do all that. I mean, basically, you guys can get it. I just drill the holes and then, bam, put it together with a rivet. And you're done. You got a pair of tongs. So, but on that note, from the tongs we made the other day, stay put.
Okay.
So we did tongs, what's it been, a few weeks ago now?
Was it January or Christmas?
Might have been right around Christmas. We made a pair of bent knee tongs, and this is how they turned out. This is the final result.
Got a pair of bent knees.
Yep, these were made with 1/2 inch square. Now, as you tell, they don't have as big of bosses on them as what this does. If you look, it definitely does not have as big of a boss area as that does. Again, just size an appropriate rivet to it. This is meant to hold very small material, so this is a lot smaller material. Again, the boss area is overkill for, you know, the little stock this thing is going to be handling. But yeah, so this is how those came out. The other tongs we had made a while ago. You see how smooth it is. I said in that stream that I needed to draw out the tong reins. I was going to do that at the power hammer to save myself effort and time and headache and all that business. And so that's how smooth those came out. Got a really nice working pair of bent knee tongs now.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know what those are for, I'll grab an example.
Alrighty. Oh, and to answer your question, Troy, yeah, the lofts come along good. We're actually going to have a live stream later for members up there, so you guys can see the new progress.
Yep. So if everybody sees these tapers, if everybody see these things here, so this is part of the very ornate hook I made a while ago. This has got 2 separate tapers on it, but this pair of tongs hold that perfectly. In fact, this jaw on this isn't quite, these are actually kind of out of camber a little bit. They're not perfectly flat to each other, and they're done like that for this exact reason. So this way I can hold stuff on a taper, because that's predominantly what I'm going to use these tongs for, is this very small work. And it's going to be on smaller material I'm going to be working with. But one of the big things is, this is a bundle of small, 16th inch scrolls. So this is 16th inch thick pieces all welded together, 3 of them welded together that are going to become scrolls. But I can grip that easily, and you can see how it can bypass. I can grip that at any juncture with the bent knee tongs, as you can see, along the bar and do what I need to do with it. So that's going to be very handy. One of the other things I could do is I can actually slip it between, easy. They're also semi-sharp, so I got to watch myself. I can actually slip it between the scrolls themselves, so once these things are scrolled out, I can still grab a hold of places. So I'll grab that storyboard real quick. This just makes it a lot easier. That's why I make storyboards. I see the storyboard okay?
Yeah.
Good. So I can now I can use these tongs, right, to grip between scrolls, like so, and hold on to specific ones. Or I can grip like this. This shows the setup. I can grip right in between specific scrolls, still hold some down while I scroll others. Or, once everything's rolled out, I have better purchase of the main column or bar, right? I can hold that bar better in between all the scrolls that have been done. Now, these aren't so much for that. These are more for like a flat type thing. But I did take another pair of tongs and I modified them. These are a pair of tongs I didn't use very often. Not super happy with the reins. I'm probably going to end up knocking this rivet out and redrawing out these reins into something else a little bit better. But I reshaped the nibs on the tong to be bent knee as well. These are square. They're not round. They're not for scrolling. I'm not using them for that. But they're square across. So this way I can grip in to tight little areas like you see here. Can they see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I can grip in right in tight and hold stuff right in the center of scrolls if need be. Basically anywhere. Anywhere on a complicated computational forging piece, I can grip just about anywhere with these tongs and get a grip and be able to do what I need to do with. So, but those were the ones we forged in that one live stream. Those are all finished. Wanted to show those off.
Yeah.
And there's another pair of bent knees, easily made from another pair of tongs. Cool.
Yeah.
Questions, Jess?
Yeah, keep
I want to go ahead and do a Q&A real quick.
Okay.
Take in a lot of questions and stuff. I can forge some more, but we'll just do a Q&A
Okay.
real quick.
Keith said, I've made several pairs of tongs this way, but I draw the reins before cutting, so I have more to hang on to. Any benefit to cutting them before drawing the reins?
Say that again.
I've made several pairs of tongs this way, but I draw the reins before cutting, so I have more to hang on to. Any benefit to cutting before drawing the reins?
Forging the nibs, or were you saying cutting?
Yeah, before.
So, before forging the nibs, it is my preference for tongs, generally speaking. It's my preference, in my own shop, when I'm not, when we're not doing the YouTube thing, I just run the power hammer, I draw out the reins real quick. I draw out reins, and then I already know, because of my layout marks, where my boss and other things are going to shape up at. And I just flip it around, I make the jaws, put them together, and I'm done. So it's better to do it that way if you can. If you can't, the reason for that being is now we have something where we have to hold on to either the nib, or we have to find some way of holding on to the boss, and that can be awkward, right? That can be awkward. Am I answering the question? Was there more information updated?
Yeah.
So now we have to find a way of holding on to the nib while we're doing all this heavy forging work on the reins. So, in my opinion, it's better if you can, if that particular style of tong you're working with will allow it, to draw out your reins first. This particular case, like I said, I was showing where I was working with one piece of bar stock, right? Assuming you don't have any tongs to hold on to, right? Mm-hmm. And I was showing how you could forge on both ends. So for this particular case, I forged the boss and the nibs of the tongs first, instead of forging out the reins. But preference, I would prefer to go ahead and forge out the reins first. So that way you're not having this awkward thing you're trying to hold on to, right? Mm-hmm. As you're forging. You can get a much better grip.
Mm-hmm. Joshua says, doing rivets in my tongs is what has me most worried the most. Will be my first time attempting it.
Okay, so some things you can do. You said that was Joshua?
Yep, Joshua Panko.
Okay, we can zoom back out, Jess. This is just
Okay.
going to be a lot of repetitive drawing work
Okay.
than anything.
Oh, you want me to go back to where I originally sat?
No, we can just zoom out. We can back up a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good. That way I don't feel like
Yeah.
they're like right in my face. They don't need to see me drawing reins. It's not that hard of a thing. So what was the question again?
About riveting.
Oh, riveting. So it wasn't a question. It was just a statement. It's
Yeah.
one of its nervous things, right? It makes it nervous. So to give some advice about riveting, the key to a successful rivet all comes down to the tightness of that rivet in the hole, the starting size hole. So your hole, your two holes that you're trying to line up, that you're going to stick a rivet to, or your two pieces that you have a hole punched through or drilled through, the most critical part of any riveting process is that those holes not be misaligned, that they be correct, and that they are the correct diameter for that rivet to just barely squeeze through and make a tight fit. You want it to have as tight a fit as possible. If you don't have a tight fit, it allows the rivet to lay down sideways as you're trying to upset it. So as you're upsetting this piece and you give it a couple big whacks to try to upset it, it doesn't want to do that. What it wants to do is it wants to bend. You got this length of material sticking out both sides. That length actually wants to bend like this. Well, if you give it somewhere inside that hole to bend and kink, then your rivet will go sideways pretty much every time. Like, almost every time. So, if the rivet size you chose goes in the hole, and it, and it jiggles like this, and you can jiggle that rivet real easily, and it just plays back and forth, don't use it. Get a bigger rivet. Put it in. Get a bigger size stock that you're going to make for a rivet. Because that is the most crucial part, is the actual hole that you're going into, not the rivet itself. I have riveted things where you use the correct formula to get a nice big head that's usually 1.5 times the diameter to get a nice big round button head rivet on both sides, right? And that looks like a lot of material sticking out there. So I've riveted things with that much material sticking out. And then I've also done flush rivets where there was a recess in the tongs or the piece where I filled out that recess with the rivet head, where the rivet head barely stuck out, 1/8 of an inch on either side, and was able to forge that down in there. And in both cases where I've had a sloppy hole fit, rivet to hole fitment, ruined the rivet every time. So because if it can kick over, it doesn't want to compress. So the material wants to move in the path of least resistance. It doesn't want to be compressed in upon itself when you're hitting it, even when it's hot. So something to keep in mind. Make sure the rivet fits very snugly, almost to the point where you need to lightly tap it through with a hammer, the hole that you're going into, and then go ahead and set your rivet cold first, and then heat it up and drive it up finally the rest of the way hot. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Hello, Eli.
Hey, Eli. Good to have you. Can I say hello to Troy, by the way? Hello, Troy.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're doing well, brother.
Joshua said it's a set of those quick tongs, so I'll be using the rivet they provided.
Okay. So that shouldn't be a problem. Just make sure, again, you have a nice tight hole. A nice tight hole that rivet goes through. Make sure that interplay is snug, super snug. You won't have any problems at all. Generally speaking, I recommend beginners start with just drilling holes. That way you could drill it to the exact size, diameter of that rivet, and you know for sure that those holes are correct. They go in, they're perfect. Versus punching it. If you punch holes, you got to be real good to get them sized correctly, and for your rivet stock not to warble all around in there. You're one blow away from the hole being too loose and your, rivet going everywhere, brother.
Nope, it's not Thomas behind the camera, although he just dropped in.
Hey, Thomas.
You guys got Jessica. Yeah, for those of you who are just joining us, we've had some computer difficulties over the last several weeks, and so all of our presets on OBS aren't currently set up right now, so we just decided to keep it simple with doing a cell phone stream.
Now I gotta find, see, here's the problem. Now I gotta find the right size tongs. to hold what I want it to do.
Keith Roy's hand is doing a lot better. He said it's a little bit achy at the tip, but his finger is pretty much healed up. He just has a little bit of a black blister under the fingernail still.
Here you go, Rob. I'm switching up to a heavy hammer. 3 pounds.
Joshua asked, would heating just the rivet and setting it into cold tongs work?
Heating what?
Heating just the rivet and set it into cold tongs.
No, not really. So, when you heat a rivet, the rivet expands. Because steel expands when it gets hot. It contracts when it gets cold. And so if you were to heat that rivet, it's not going to fit in your pre-sized hole. If you make the hole to the size of the heated rivet, when it cools, it's going to contract away from the side walls of the hole, and then you're going to have a loose riveted joint. So, no, not great. You're usually not quick enough working by yourself to heat a rivet up, shove it through a hole, and rivet it up tight in time to expand it enough to make that work. And like I said, it'll contract away from the hole. The reason why that works in like ships, big ships, those are crews of people working. Those are crews of people working together, highly trained, highly skilled crews that have worked with each other for a long time. And if you look, there was striker gangs and stuff like that, you put your rivet set on there and guys wailing it with, sledgehammers and stuff like that. And they had a different length of rivet, so they had more than what could go in the hole to begin with. And things were still snug, and so they could really expand out that rivet and get a good tight seal, and then that seal would then contract, and it would pull everything up tight, pull the plates up tight. That is, not very easy to do by oneself. So got a little bit of roasty on me. This one is going to be a little bit shorter by default. So, the advice I've just given, I should probably preface it with the fact that advice given by YouTube instructors or in-person instructors is only valid into which you are asking, right? If you're making a pair of tongs, it's a bad idea to heat the rivet, shove it through, and forge it up tight. It won't get tight. It won't. It'll loosen. It will. Every time. No matter how many times I've tried it, it always loosens because I'm not that good. It's slipping that rivet through there. You start with a bigger hole. I have not found that method is very accurate or effective. So, I don't recommend it, right? That's from a personal experience. So, your mileage will vary. You may find that for you is the best method for you to be able to take and get a rivet done. You might find somebody else who does hot rivet work all the time. And they say, that YouTube quack, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We use hot rivets all the time. So, not all advice is good for all situations. So, you need to forge test pieces. You need to try this type of stuff on a non-consequential basis. So, best way to do it, get yourself 2 bars of steel and try what you're asking. Right? Drill a hole versus punch a hole. Get you some rivets. whether you make them yourself or whether you buy them store-bought. Buy them store-bought if you want to eliminate that variable. They're all the same length, right? And drill a hole. Rivet it up. Try it cold. Try it hot, right? You could do that, and those tests will indicate to you, they will tell you what's the best method for that particular case, that use case that you're after. So, because too much, you guys, blacksmiths all around the world, we spend a lot of energy and too much time arguing over like tit for tat stuff, like, well, this is right or that's wrong, or this is the correct way to forge, this is the incorrect way of forging, when really it's all one form or another, and all methods have a place at some point in time. There's a reason why there's a lot more to being a master smith than just being good at making something, right? To be considered a master smith, you got to have a lot of broad range of skills. You got to be able to run an entire shop, a smithing shop, and to do so means you have to be able to undertake any project that comes through the door, pay the light bills on. Otherwise, you're going to work for somebody else. And that's just kind of like as simple as you can make master smith versus journeyman versus, apprentice, right? It's the level of competency at the forge and knowing what you're talking about and doing. So you have got to practice these things. You'll find in your own work certain ways work better for you and not so great for others. And they might tell you that your way of doing it is completely wrong. And it may be in their shop. Who says it that if it works, it ain't stupid? Right? Something to that something to that measure. Hammer technique, hammer size, anvils, shape, size, height, width, 2 horns, no horns. Everything's always been in debate since the dawn of time when it comes to smiths. What's best, what's better, what's quicker, what's faster, what's more efficient, right? All these things have been debated and will continue to be debated long after I'm dead and gone. What's the best, right, way of doing that? What's the most efficient way? What's the right way? What's the wrong way of doing something?
So Joshua asks, he says, let me scroll up to here. He says, so put the rivet in and heat both the tongs and rivet.
So, drill your hole, the correct size for the rivet. So that's whatever the diameter of that rivet is. So say that rivet diameter is 3/8 of an inch in diameter. You drill a 3/8 hole through both your pieces. You find the center of your boss with Ken's custom iron tongs. They're those quick tongs. You should be able to easily find dead center. If you don't, I have videos on my channel on making a whole tong making series where I go over how to find the center of the boss and things like that. More than welcome to check those out. But you find the center of the boss, you drill your hole, you put your rivet cold through those holes, and then you set that rivet, the head of the rivet down, shank of the rivet up, that's this narrow part going up, and then you wail on that end till it flares out a bit. At that point, you won't be able to even move the jaws. You take the whole thing, heat it in the fire, bring it out, and you finish shaping your rivet to size and appearance, and then you go ahead and adjust the bite of your tongs after that. And that'll be the most surefire way that you'll get a perfect rivet job each and every time. Now what you'll find is, with that method, when everything cools, because the tong jaws have been set, they've stretched a little bit, they'll stretch around that hole, you'll find when everything cools down, it'll be a little loose. Do not heat it back up. It'll have a little looseness to it, like left to right with the tongs here. Don't heat it up. I need to find a pair that stop that. I just recently tuned all mine up, so I don't have. Yeah, I'm not going to have a pair close by, but basically, without heating it, take that rivet area and just give it one big pop and then feel it, and it'll be tighter. You'll tighten it up just that little bit. That's all you need. And then they're good to go. But you do that once they've fully cooled down, because again, that rivet that has been stretched, that's been swelling out inside that hole, it has stretched the hole around itself. When it cools, it will contract away from the hole. It just will. So you'll just have to reset it cold a little bit, and then it'll be snug as a bug in a rug.
PB Blacksmithing says, I just joined. How long does it take to make a simple pair of tongs on average?
Good question. So, it's going to vary based upon your own individual skill, how many tongs you've made, of course. But to give you a quick and easy answer, most tongs take most people, when you first start, very green, just begin, they're going to be a 4-hour project for you. When you're green and you don't know much about anything, you're going to spend half of your time at the forge correcting your own mistakes that you wouldn't have made in the first place if you had the experience. So making a usable pair of tongs, probably, if you're completely green, is going to take you at least 4 hours to make as a complete beginner. Flash forward a little bit, you've got a good foundation on the fundamentals. You have some good hammer time under your belt now. You know, you've put in, 100 hours of hammer work at an anvil. You should be able to get that time down to about 45 minutes to an hour to hand make a pair of tongs from start to finish. Just standing hammer and anvil, right? That should be the case. I can make tongs in my shop. The fastest I've been able to make tongs is 15 minutes per pair. So 15 minutes, that's the fastest I've been able to make tongs. They weren't my favorite tongs. They looked rush. I could make them. So I'd rather spend the 30 minutes to make a pair of tongs, make it look nice, than rush out kind of a really junky pair that's going to go to Goodwill. And, not have my touch mark on them, right? I'd rather make a decent pair of tongs or a nicer pair of tongs and spend that extra amount of time on it. So I would say a good shooting average to look for to make a pair of tongs is spend about 30 minutes of your life to do so. It's worth it. So if you're in a project, you're going to start working on a grill, a gate, a railing, some sort of ornate whatevers, and you need some special pair of tongs, it's worth stopping, taking 30 minutes of your life, make a nice pair of tongs, and continue on about your work. So it's worth doing that. But yeah, so stage it out, beginning, intermediate, advanced. The more advanced you are, the longer you've been at it, the faster you'll be at making tongs. I know there's guys who can make tongs way faster than me, but no better than me. So I'll just put it that way. Which is a strange thing to say. Questions, Jeff?
Ben Toom says, Goodwill has blacksmith stuff?
They just might.
Bill Will says, correction, how fast can you make working tongs?
Oh, working pair of tongs?
It'll be more than 10 minutes, that's for sure.
What, tongs that just work, function?
Yeah, versus not.
Oh, functional pair of tongs? Mm-hmm. About 8 minutes. I can make a pair in 8 minutes. Flat.
Thomas Beckett says it really depends on the shop you're in. With no tools, it takes more time.
Yep. So one thing I'd like to point out, there are some folks that have noticed this about me. There's other folks that have not. But if you'll notice in about 99% of my videos, I do not use any power forging equipment. I have the power forging equipment. I could do really neat things with power forging equipment, but I don't use power forging equipment in my shop. And I do that because I am a YouTube forging educator. That's what I am. I'm a YouTube instructor, blacksmithing instructor. That is the best way they can classify me and put me into some sort of little box or make a title for me, is I am a YouTube educator. So I educate folks on YouTube blacksmithing. Well, it does not help those out there that I'm trying to educate, my target market audience, right? The people I'm trying to help the most, which is the newer, greener smiths, right? The guys that are fresh to the craft, and the intermediate level smiths out there. If I'm trying to educate a master smith, they pretty much already know the stuff I'm trying to educate, and I'm having to say. They might pick up small little tips or little techniques, but they would learn more from me by being in my shop and understanding how I do something, or I would go about a grill or a railing or some method like that. More so than learning how to make a pair of tongs from me, right? So I gear my channel towards exactly that. As you can see, I've drawn out all these reins. I draw out the reins by hand, hammer, anvil, right? Heat, hammer, anvil. Because most likely, when you get started as a smith, this is all you're going to be lucky to have. Is something to beat something with, something to beat it on, and a way to heat it up. Simple as that. And so that's why I've geared my channel that way, and do it. There's a method to the madness, folks.
Rob Huff says, sometimes I feel like I spend more time adjusting tongs than it does to forge them out. I'm planning to become a YouTube forging jester.
What?
YouTube forging jester.
A jester? Yeah. Yeah, it takes to make them nice, to get them fitting just right, to get them doing the thing you want to do, takes a little bit of time. And you can put as much or as little time into that as you want to do. So, I try to make them nice and smooth. Trying to make a nice, smooth, good-looking pair of tongs. You know, just for here in the shop, don't matter. It's worth taking a little extra time. I'm enjoying the forging process, so it's the best way to take it.
Bill Will says, I have a log splitter I use as a press. Definitely saves time. Hoping to get Roy's air-assisted treadle someday.
That'd be awesome, Bill. Yeah, the air-assisted treadle can really help out in certain operations. I love mine, so.
I think Keith said earlier something along the lines of setting up the treadle hammer to do a one-hit tong head under the treadle hammer.
Yeah, it's a bit beyond its capabilities, unfortunately.
Tim O'Connor was teasing Rob and said, plan to become that YouTube jester?
How many people we have joining us, huh?
Oh, we have 45 and
45.
33 thumbs up.
Awesome. Thank you all. Be a nice pair of tongs, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be good enough for my liking.
What's your favorite tong rein length?
My favorite tong length is about 14 to 16 inches, so depends on the tongs for the reins. I like the length of tongs to get that extra bite. It's good enough. It's good enough for that. I'll fiddle with that some more later.
Mm-hmm. It's Will says, gives me an idea. Use a tong blank to forge a tong wedge, or dies for the press? Question mark.
You could.
PB Blacksmithing says, question. I have a very small 100-pound Amazon anvil. What is a good size for an anvil, and what would I be able to get one for price-wise? I like to make medium to large blades.
The one you got's about perfect. So, 100, so a good size, I would say, just for good all around general work. So that means kind of like the Swiss Army knife of anvils as far as weight is about 150 pounds. Any heavier than that, it's not overly mobile enough to where, if you wanted to load it up in a truck and go take it to a, blacksmithing event or a show or something, right, and demonstrate your craft. Any heavier than that, it's not really practical to do that, right, for a one guy to offload out of the truck type deal. 150 pounds is totally manageable. You could do that. In fact, I did that for a great number of years before I had a smaller anvil to take and work with. Whenever we were doing art shows and stuff like that, I had a 170-pound anvil, and that was a bit rough. 150 would have been nicer to carry around to shows and stuff. 150 is just big enough that it can really handle up some really heavy forging. It can withstand quite a bit of abuse for day-to-day, daily driver type anvil. So that's been the standard for eons, longer than I've been alive, longer than I've ever been a blacksmith. And that was kind of the standard back in the day. Anywhere from about 125 up to about 150 pounds is generally considered a very acceptable size anvil. That being said, my preference for a shop anvil is as big as you can afford. I love really large anvils, so love them to pieces. I like right now, I have the tongs, I have a hammer, and I have the piece all sitting on the anvil, and I can still have enough room to put up a chisel plate. I still have enough room to, use the hardy hole for something, right? I still have enough room to move this over. I've got even more space to make a little doodling or something like that. I like having an absolute beast or iron board of an anvil. Olga's 465 pounds. Beautiful. Anvil, I like Olga the way she is. She's about the perfect size for me and what I'm doing. Now, I could go with a bigger anvil, and I'm sure I would say the same. Oh, this 3,000-pound anvil is about the perfect size for me and what I'm doing, if I had a 3,000-pound anvil. I do not, but if I ever do, expect me to say much of the same, because I really do like really big anvils. So the main reason why I say large anvils are my favorite. They're my cup of tea. Large anvils are just a great workspace that you can work against. They resist every bounce of your hammer blows. 100% of what you're putting in is just about 100% of what you're doing. You don't lose anything to this anvil moving around. This anvil don't move. It don't go nowhere. It just stays here. And I like that. The lighter anvils, you start swinging at them hard, they can start to move and jitter and move about if you don't got them locked down somewhere on the floor. And you waste a little bit of energy in the smithing there. Now, how much is that is worthwhile? Well, that can be debated. But yeah, that's my preference. Large anvil as you can afford. But general, good all-around shop anvils within the 125 to 150 pound range. Best anvil you got is the one that you already have in your position and get out and get smithing. So that's that is the best kind of anvil, is one that you can actually smith right now, today with. So I've had a couple guys ask, years ago in the past, right? I've had people ask me in the past, like, hey, I only got so much money, and I got this opportunity to buy this anvil, but it's 100 pounds. It seems small. Should I get it? And they haven't swung their first hammer blow yet. at anything. I'm like, yeah, if you got an opportunity to get on it, jump on it, get that thing, you know, and just use the heck out of it. You'll find later on that you may want something bigger, or you might find that you do a lot of portable show stuff, and you don't want to be dragging around a 250-pound anvil everywhere, or even a 100-pound anvil everywhere. You might find you want to do something along the 50-pound range, right? So, yeah.
Bill Will says, if I remember correctly, Olga's stand weighs about the same as Olga herself.
Yeah, Olga's stand weighs 375 pounds. So, that's how much the stand weighs. And I built the stand. I custom built the stand. So.
And yes, anvil envy is a thing.
Yep, it is. So we're going to look at these tongs here, just see how the volume is stretching out. So you see the jaws are better aligned now, where they're actually going to be. Tong rein's in a good shape.
Mm-hmm.
Be a nice stout pair of scrolling tongs there.
Oh, yeah.
These, once this is forged out to the same length, I'll take the time to round these up or flatten it in this direction. So that way I got a little better grip on it there. But I'll wait to do that until after both are the same length and the boss meets up where it's supposed to. And then I can do whatever little adjustments and tweaks I need before I drill and pop a hole through there and throw a rivet in it and tighten her up.
Keith says one rein is longer and thinner than the other.
Yeah, a little wonky, ain't it? A little wonky. Oh. Captain Obvious.
Rob says, I have Olga's little sister at 250 pounds, but I rarely use it. My go-to anvil weighs maybe 65 pounds.
Yeah. So that total rein came up to right around 13 inches. When I get done with it, it'll most likely be closer to 14 when I get done. And we could probably measure it from the center of the boss, which is a better way of doing it. People measure these a little bit different, but from the pivot point out is 14 inches, which is a nice length. That's a good all-around pair of tongs there. I like them to be a little longer than that, but for scrolling, they'll be just fine for scrolling. But you can see that everything else came out correct. Length of jaws from the inside there is 2 inches. Same thing on the other jaw. Same thing for the bosses. We ended up with 1 inch across and 1 inch high. Everything's worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Looks pretty good. I just had to finish drawing that out at another time.
Josh Montgomery says the wonky tongs are for all these 3-fingered guys sticking their hands in fans.
Yeah, that's what it is. What, this guy? The crab, the claw.
Very nice.
There you go.
Back away slowly.
What time are we at, huh?
We are at 6:41.
Okay, that's a good place to. I'll take some more questions and stuff, and I won't do any more forging, but we take some more questions and comments and that sort of thing. I do want to remind channel members that we will be having a member stream tonight where Jessica's going to be doing some enameling, I think. Or
We are. Yes,
Yeah.
I will. Mm-hmm.
are we?
That's correct.
Are we?
We
I don't
are.
know.
We are.
She kind of posed it like it was a question.
I am.
I thought we were agreed before we went
We are
live, but
doing
we
that,
might
yes.
not be. So
We are doing that. Yeah.
okay, so Jessica's gonna be doing some enameling, and
Yep.
I'm going to man the camera.
That's
or
right.
My cell phone,
Yep. Yep.
and we'll go from there and see how that goes,
Mm-hmm.
and see what interesting things Jessica has.
Yes.
for us,
Yes.
so. Yep, and shoot the breeze and all that good stuff. That's something I'm trying to commit more to, is to all the channel members that have signed up to support us on a monthly basis. I am trying to dedicate ourselves this year to making sure that we do at least one monthly membership stream a month, just for the members, so to chat and hang out and catch up and that sort of stuff, right? And who knows what we might be getting into, but I want to dedicate at least one a month to the channel members. And make sure that I do that. So that way that's a good perk to the package there. Good perk to the package deal. Speaking of which, I'm gonna jaw just a little bit more, and then I'm gonna take some questions
Okay.
and comments and concerns and all that jazz. We have a new website. Jessica has been working very hard at that, and yeah, we had kind of a crazy moment. We've had beta testers, which was good. Everything was on lock, and then the domains transfer, and then they were shut down for 48 plus hours, and there's all sorts of nonsense that was part of that Jessica ended up figuring out with the tech support people. And so we do have the website back up and going now. We moved our website from Weebly domain, basically like a Weebly hosting platform, and they are owned by PayPal, ain't they, honey?
Square.
Square. They're owned by Square, and I think Square is owned by PayPal, ain't it?
I don't know on
believe
that
it
one,
is,
but
yeah.
they are a credit card processing company.
So basically they're owned by Square, and they're old. They're a good website if you want to take and build just like a regular website for...
Very simple for drag and drop elements. Like that part's really simple.
Yeah. Like if you want to build yourself an online portfolio and maybe take a few sales through their platform, great platform for that, right? If you have a few items that you want to sell, you're just selling your artwork, your individualized piece, maybe up to say 20 items or so, they're a great place for that. You can put your blog there, you can do all sorts of different stuff. Weebly was great for that. We have now moved our website to Shopify instead. And Shopify is an e-commerce platform for those people who are not in the know. And so therefore they're very geared towards being able to move quickly. So there's some stuff I want to do for the longest. I have there was things that we couldn't do with our Weebly store that we can now do with our Shopify store. So there's things I've been wanting to clear out. I have a bunch of factory seconds. So like items that are less than perfect. They don't meet the grade for our standards to ship out to you guys on the CNC blanks. And I have a whole boatload of those. It's where the bed, for whatever reason, where the lead in, lead out was, it blew out a little extra curve out of the hook. Well, we can't ship that to you, even though you should be forging out the hooks a bit more and making them a finished product. But we can't do that. We want everything to be as uniform as possible. And so we set those off to the side as factory seconds, right? Sometimes the lead in or lead out on parts is flopped the wrong way, and it's something that somebody could very quickly go, put a little buzz box weld on and then forge out and be a perfectly good product. But, anyways, I digress. Point is, they're less than perfect, and I have a whole entire shelf full of those. And now we have an area where I can put secondary items. I can put clearanced items. We can do clearance things on stuff that's been sitting forever, or I can make shelf space. That's much needed in the shop and stuff like that. So Shopify is going to be so much more awesome. The experience from our beta testers and from the customers that have went over there so far has been positive. The reviews have been really good, that things are a lot easier to find. Our old website, unfortunately, if you clicked on something and you clicked off, like went back to the home screen, it was almost dang near impossible for you to find your way back to the page you were looking at. So like if you went over there because you were looking at our PDFs page or maybe a free document we had or an ebook, and you go click over on you got led over there on the ebook page, and you're like, oh, that's cool, I want to download that. I wonder what else they got. You click on the home button on the website, poof. Good luck finding the ebook page again. It was like one of those, and people had to like go big, circle back around, go back through the video they were watching, and it was a big headache and a big mess. And we don't have those problems, or hopefully we won't have those problems going forward. So if you will, you don't have to buy anything. Of course, I always would love if you did. But if you're watching this video, this live stream, do us a favor. Go over, check it out, and drop us a comment. You come back to this live stream after it's over and drop us a comment on what you think. Think of it, or you can email us and let us know, what you think of the new website. We'd love to hear feedback and do stuff. And we have 262 blanks products, and then we have an additional bunch of stuff. So it comes
With
out just a
all
little
the-
over 300, right?
With all the variations
Yeah, with
in
all
the
the variations.
materials and the thicknesses we now offer, it's technically about 1,000 products is what Shopify was saying.
Okay, so it's about 1,000
Yeah.
products. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the variations and all the different stuff. Yeah, if you want to add all the variants and stuff to it. Yeah, there's about 1,000 products that we offer. So that's a bunch.
It is.
I didn't know it was that much. That's a lot.
Surprise.
So that's why it's been a big, it's been one heck of a move. So if you would, go check that out for us. Greatly appreciate the feedback, anybody's feedback. You know, tell us what you like, what you dislike, that sort of thing. We love to hear it. It just helps us be better at what we do. So,
Ken,
better service.
Ken Foster says the new site does look more polished.
Oh, thank you, Ken.
And let's see here. Sorry, I was trying to find the comment. Robert Lana says, website looks great, very easy to navigate.
Awesome, Robert. Thank you.
And John Mayberry says, checking it out now seems great.
Sweet. I'm glad. So, I do a plebeian noob test to the website for myself. I like to get on there, and I am one of those guys, like, if you make it kind of frustrating for me to do anything on your site, I'm gone. Like, I'm uninterested now in the thing I was going to potentially buy. Because sometimes I'll do research on something I'm going to buy later, right? I'm trying to say, ooh, that looks interesting. If I gotta sign up for all this stuff, I gotta go through like 5 different ways. I'm not dealing with all that hot mess. I'm wanting to get to the information as soon as possible. So our old website was a holdover from just the blacksmithing business alone. It did not incorporate the things we do on YouTube very well. It did not incorporate, those were all like add-ons and tag-ons later on. And so it didn't incorporate those things very well. And now this new website should, hopefully.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Basically, yeah. Which is kind of where a fresh start is nice. You know, you get to redesign and put back all the building blocks the most efficient way possible. So I think that shows in the navigation of the site. And one of my personal favorite features is the search bar. I don't know if you guys have seen that yet or not, but there is a search bar. It's like right up at the upper right-hand side. So if you know you're looking for cat items or cat hooks or whatever it is, skillets, you type it in and you don't even have to navigate through, you know, to the kitchenwares and then look for the skillets. Like, you can literally type in, you know, the item right there in the search bar and it'll pull it up for you.
yeah. Which the old website didn't have that. So again,
It
if
did
you
not.
got off the page you were on, you were so hosed. And by proxy, we were hosed because we probably made it too difficult and people were like, enough of this hot mess. I got other things to do with my life, which is totally understandable because I do that to other people's websites that are hard to navigate. So, but yeah, so check that out. Greatly appreciate it. And yeah, I mean that's it for as far as the salesman spiel I got this evening. I hope I added some value to everybody for forging and some knowledge.
I think they liked it, yeah.
I think they liked it.
Troy says, wait, you have a way to hang up a cat? Sweet.
Yes, we do. There's more than one way.
Bill Will says, oh, okay, sorry, that wasn't for us. Thomas says, we tried our best to get out the orders as fast as we can.
Yep. Oh yeah, that is one thing maybe I could say a bit more. So on the website, we noticed this the other day when we were talking to our good friends, Jeff, Killian, and they were one of our beta testers. So we did find out that the way that it works is, so Jessica has to put in like a turnaround time, like a lead time, and then they tack on an additional amount of time on what it will take to get to you and the shipping. And so one of the things was, it seemed like it was going to take 2 weeks for it to get to Jeff, the order that he had placed. And you know, we were able to ship it out, like, I mean, we basically shipped it out like next day, you know, like the next day, or it was like 2 days later that we actually ended up shipping out as items. So it didn't take us a full week. Oftentimes it does not take us a full 1 week processing time to process stuff, but it's better to meet or exceed your expectations than fail to meet or exceed your expectations, right? Like, so it's better that. So even if you do choose to try to go buy something or do something like that, just know that the shipping time is, you know, it's trying to calculate both our 1 week processing time that we give, and it's trying to calculate what UPS or USPS might decide it's going to be for you to receive the item type deal. So, but
Thomas asked, did you talk about the free shipping over $25?
I have not. I'm going to let Jessica talk about that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I will actually, there we go. You guys can actually see me now. Yes, so we are doing free shipping over $25 in the United States. We technically are doing that for the continental 48 states, free shipping on everything. And then for Alaska and Hawaii, we are doing free shipping on the small to medium sized items. The large items, just the shipping costs a lot more, so we're just not able to build that into the price for everybody else just to cover it to those places. So, but we do have the limited free shipping for small and medium items, which is like kitchenwares and stuff like that. So yeah.
Did you switch back to me?
Yes, I switched back to you just now. And then there's one other question about shipping. Bill Will says, are they coming UPS, similar, or by US Postal?
They will come whichever way ships the fastest and cheapest for me. So that's kind of how they'll go. It varies. All of our big items, really heavy items, are going UPS these days. Most items that we can fit in a priority mail padded flat rate envelope, we will ship that way through priority mail. So a lot of our flat blanks, like our hooks and ornaments and bowl blanks and things like that, that can fit in the context of a priority flat mail envelope, because those can go up to 70 pounds, which is crazy that you put 70 pounds in those. We've put 40 in them before. It's a lot. It's a lot of stuff that we filled those envelopes out with. Whatever we can fit in there, that's what we'll do. That's our general shipping method. Is USPS has been our usual shipping method. UPS up here is actually very difficult for us. So they shut down our main branch in Alpena. They shut down, so they shut that down, and they laid off some different people and done some stuff. UPS is a bit of a mess up here where we're at, up here in the north. Like the nearest UPS store now, for us, if we have to go do it, we have to actually schedule a pickup, which costs us $25 for them to come pick up the packages from our house.
Rural.
Because we're rural, even though we're along their route anyhow. But the closest store to us now is like Saginaw. We have to drive down to Saginaw, which not happening,
gonna do. Yeah.
which we're not doing. So we wait till we have enough UPS orders, and then we schedule a pickup up here. But that's of the bigger stuff, like your treadle hammer kits, all of the floor tooling stands and wall mounted tong racks and things like that. That's all the big heavy stuff. It goes UPS because we have a certain flat rate type commercial based price shipping that we ship through them. But I wanted to talk about the free ship just a little bit better. So the whole idea behind free shipping, one thing we were having a lot of with the old Weebly site, you have to enter certain values into the computer about the item, right? So you have to, it was miscalculating. A lot of times it was miscalculating the shipping. Not all the time, but a lot of times it was miscalculating the shipping to people's locations. So we were having to give refunds on the shipping because, it might charge you $37 to ship it to you, and we shipped it for $11. And it's like, good God, man, that's too much. And so we would end up refunding the difference. And that's a big nuisance. That's a big headache for us to do because, we just deal with a lot of different transactions. So dealing with that constantly, okay, wait a minute, who was overcharged, who was undercharged? The calculated shipping was always overshooting or undershooting the estimation and what they were charging the customer. And so we decided with the new website, we want to make it as easy and streamlined as possible. What you see is what you get. What you put in the cart is what you're paying for, right? Provided the whatever Jessica's got written up there on the website and the asterisks and the fine print, right?
Alaska and Hawaii are a little different, but
Alaska and Hawaii,
else in the US.
unfortunately, are a little bit different, but that's the way the world is right now. So, but yeah, so we wanted to make it as streamlined as possible. What you see is what you get. So, yep.
And yeah, it's something it's not limited time. This is something we're doing continuously going forward.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that answers all the shipping
Good.
questions.
Did I answer that? Good.
Yep.
Was there any other questions, technical questions that I need to get to, or is that pretty much dried up? We okay?
Let's see. I'll scroll through for a moment and see. Keith says, having a 6-month-old is amazing, but I've only caught 25% of the stream. Because of that, gonna have to go back and rewatch what I missed.
I feel you, Keith. We've been there.
Bill says, Jessica looks like she's freezing. I just dress in layers, but I mean, it's probably about 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I do have a heater next to me.
She has a heater pointed at her
But
too. So.
I like to layer.
She's a heat bug. That's what
Yeah.
she is. So.
Yes, which my studio stays very warm. I'm happy about that. Robert Lana says, I used to have to do a Google search to get back to the page, and now it's very easy. Good. We don't want anybody having to Google the right
search,
page.
so.
Oh, that's so bad.
That's so terrible.
That's so bad for how we used to do things. So I'm really glad we reorganized.
Yeah. To put that in perspective for anybody who's not in the know, who's not part of e-commerce or not part of running your own business and trying to sell stuff, things like that, you'd be surprised that you all out there, the customer, you're literally like fishing. Like, that's what it is. Like, you're temperamental fish. You 100% are. Like, it's the best way the analogy I can give it. It's like, bite the lure, I got a thing, you need to buy this thing. And you're like, nah. You didn't like the color, you didn't like the smell, you didn't like the rattle of it, you didn't like the depth, you didn't like something, but we'll never know because you just swam away. And so stuff like that where you have to Google to get back to no one's like very few, thank you, God bless you, you're such a dedicated person. Right? There's very few people that are going to do that, right? Like if you're inconvenienced even in the slightest, you know, right, you're in the John on your lunch break and you figured you'd go ahead and, you know, look at some blacksmithing tooling. My video came up on YouTube. You're like, oh, I think I'll check that out. And it doesn't land where you thought it was going to go. Well, that's it. Porta John time's over. You're back at work. And I'm yesterday's news, you know, when it comes to stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm so happy that, I'm hopefully going to be so happy that with the new website that everything will be super navigatable, easily found, and won't be irritating people to no end when they're trying to find information. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Rob Huff says, how are you guys looking for Quad State this year?
Right now, looking pretty good. So it is my plan to attend Quad State this year, barring any crazy, right, that happens. So hopefully, knock on steel, nothing happens, right? So,
I don't want to knock on steel.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to doing Quad State this year. That's my goal. I'm thinking on Quad States, most likely it's going to be an every other year kind of thing for me. So it's usually a pretty big ordeal for us to come down, especially bring and haul everything that we do. So Quad State, when I used to live in Ohio, it was no problem. It was an every year. It was a Mecca thing. I'm just doing it, period. You know, every year. Like, hold the phone. I will be at Quad State, you know, at this such and such date, such and such time. We live so far north now that it's kind of like it's a every other year kind of thing for us. So I think that's going to be the cycle we'll end up falling into. So last year, we didn't go Quad State. This year, I hope to be at Quad State. Again, barring any crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Bill Will says, what 4 states is it named after? Let's see, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky,
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay, there you go.
Yep.
4 states. 8-hour drive. Pretty close with stops. Bathroom stops and whatnots.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Ken Foster says, technical question. I'm finding copper plated stuff a pain. I shape and the plating comes off. Whether I have to repaint or plate, is there a way around it? And then he followed that
What's
up
he saying
with,
again? Plating?
yeah, he's working with stuff that has copper plating on it.
And
He
he's forging
says, mhm.
Okay.
He says 100% copper is a bit soft, so to get the iron plated a bit stouter. So he wants to have iron plated with copper, but the copper is
Okay.
coming off.
So plating is a final step in the equation. You cannot forge something that is plated and hope to retain the plating, because the plating is only a few micron thick. It's not very thick. It's like literally just a surface level ordeal. So it's not a very thick thing. So the second you whack on it, your plating is going to go away. So the best way to do it is get your finalized item and then plate it after it's all said and done. So, because you could take something like, you could chrome plate something and hit it with a flat disc, and well, there with the chrome, it's gone. Might still look shiny, but you ground it down to the bare steel, right? Even though you chrome plated it. So, plating is your final step, your final stage in that process. So my suggestion, forge out your piece, then electroplate it afterwards. Get it very clean. That's another thing. Make sure the metal prep is very clean, and then electroplate it.
Says
If I'm reading it right.
He said, which would be stouter, to replate then clear coat, or paint then clear coat?
Plating is going to be stronger. It's going to be more adhered to the surface. It's not like going to scratch off like paint would. And then you could clear coat over it to protect the plating in a rougher environment. So that would be my suggestion. Paint's paint, so doesn't matter if you add a coat of clear over paint, it's still paint. It's just a double thick layer of paint. So I would do the plating, then clear coat it if you need that extra. You need that extra insurance.
Yeah, Keith, Quad State's always the fourth weekend in September. So no, not in April.
Nope, not in April.
Maybe there's another hammer in April.
Yeah, who knows?
Let's see. Tim O'Connor says, is BAM earlier? I think BAM does meet earlier in the year.
Most blacksmithing organizations do a lot of planning to make sure they don't conflict with Quad State. And they do that with good measure, because if they conflict with Quad State, they will have almost zero in attendance at their events.
Yeah.
For the most part. They will have a very huge dip in their attendance, and they need the attendance in order to get enough money to pay for the event. So this way they can do the cycle again next year. And so majority of organizations do their best to stay away from Quad State and around Quad State Roundup, because it's just known that that is the place to be at that time of year. And they've done it forever. At one time, years ago, Abana double booked on the same week that Quad State was, and they had terrible attendance, and Quad State won out. So they don't do that anymore. They stay the heck away from the dates on Quad State, and that's the national branch. And SOFA's a sister or little brother organization to Abana, right? So it's a sister chapter to the larger organization of Abana, and Abana wasn't able to muscle in on that date and get it moved at all. So because Quad State still ran, and Quad State kicked their tail like 100-fold in attendance. So so yeah.
Can't beat those tailgate sales.
No. So generally, if you're looking at another blacksmithing event and it's before the fourth weekend in September, then it's most likely not Quad State. Because they always have Quad State at the same time every year.
Yeah, Rob says the last Abana conference was a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded
Wasn't
like
there.
they had trouble getting the attendance.
Yeah. I'll say this about clubs and organizations. I'll say this just be a very short rant. Clubs and organizations, they do one or two things usually in any club or organization around the world. Doesn't matter what they're for. But in blacksmithing specifically, we'll keep it on topic of blacksmithing. They do one or two things. They either embrace everything that there is about blacksmithing, and they're very inclusive. They're very trying to bring everybody in to the craft, and with open minds, and trying to stay creative, trying to stay friendly, trying to promote the craft as best as they can. Or they go the other way of, we've got the best thing going, everything else is retarded, don't go do those things. We're part of an elite group of people. So they usually go one or two ways. lots of blacksmithing organizations that you know and you may love or hate today have done flip-flops back and forth over time, doing that exact thing. Becoming elitist, then not becoming elitist, right? Being all for the new guy, being all against the new guy, right? New technology, no technology. It's just, right, it's ran by people, right? And those people have boards, right? You know, the organizations have boards, and those boards change, and they have different flavors of people that are running things at any given time. At an Abana event, or a SOFA event, or a MABA event for like a Michigan Mars Blacksmith event or whatever, there are usually about 5 people doing all the work for the entire thing. There are 5 red-headed stepchildren that are doing all the work for the entire organization. They're doing all the heavy lifting. They're sweeping the they're sweeping the floors, they're mucking out the bathrooms, they're doing whatever they're replacing the toilet paper rolls. They are the ones that make the thing run, and it is very difficult to put on an event. So difficult. There's so much that goes into it for you to show up with your barbecue stained t-shirt and say, this event sucks. Right? There's a lot that goes into those events. So have a little heart for the folks out there. Rob knows this. He's been around long enough, but just telling everybody else, because I've heard differences. I have heard a lot of different stories from different folks going to these events and not going to these events online. People being wronged by blacksmithing clubs. People love blacksmithing clubs. I've heard it all. Just give everybody a little bit of grace out there, you know. And it's a hard thing that they're trying to do, is bring a lot of people together in so many different ideologies, so many different things, and trying to kind of corral this herd of cats into one spot and say, let's all enjoy blacksmithing together. It's quite a difficult thing to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, Troy, feel free to go ahead and drop some info about the gathering if you want to. I believe you guys were saying it's in April every year. Mm-hmm. Dana says, gotta go. Great live stream, everyone. Have
Take
a great
care, Dana.
weekend. God bless Roy and Jess.
Yep. God bless you. God bless you, Eve, too.
Yep. Audio's fine on our end. Okay, one person said there might be an audio issue, but somebody else said it was fine. So.
Okay.
Yep. Still hanging on to 50 people.
Still hanging on to 50 people, man. They must not have a whole lot else going on. Well, listen to this guy talking.
Friday winter night.
Huh?
A Friday in winter.
A wintry Friday night. Yeah. Oh. Okay. So.
So yeah. Well, I didn't bring the poetry book out, but I do have. I did look up the Blacksmith's poem by Henry Longfellow, so I'll have to read that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you looked it up. Where'd you look it up?
Anvil Fire.
Oh, you did. Okay.
Yeah.
You got that pulled up simultaneously on my phone, or what?
No, my phone.
Oh, you got it on your phone. Okay.
I looked up
gee
in
whiz,
advance.
She's figuring out how to do things on the phone like that. So.
Yeah, no, I would. I mean, yeah, that would probably cause some issues. Probably would lose audio because it would be no longer on the page.
Something would go horribly awry. So.
Mm-hmm, it would.
Anyways, well, thank you all so much for stopping in, saying hey. Hopefully you found some of this education valuable. I enjoyed forging, enjoyed teaching, so hopefully it was a good thing for everybody. Members, remember, we're going to be having a member stream tonight up from Jessica's studio space, and doing some enameling work. So
that's right.
So that ought to be a lot of fun. And yeah, so I'll let you lead us out with that poem, and be looking for some new exciting things along the way.
All right.
All right. You do the poem?
Yes.
All right.
Got you guys flipped around. My layers, yes. I needed my scarf. All right, the village blacksmith. Under a spreading chestnut tree, the village smithy stands. The smith, a mighty man is he, with large and sinewy hands, and the muscles of his brawny arms as strong as iron bands. His hair is crisp and black and long, his face is like the tan. His brow is wet with honest sweat, he earns whate'er he can, and looks the whole world in the face, for he owes not any man. Week in, week out, from morn till night, you can hear his bellows blow. You can hear him swing his heavy sledge with measured beat and slow, like a sexton ringing the village bell when the evening sun is low. And children coming home from school look in the open door. They love to see the flaming forge and hear the bellows roar, and catch the burning sparks that fly like chaff from a threshing floor. He goes on Sunday to the church and sits among his boys. He hears the parson pray and preach. He hears his daughter's voice, singing in the village choir, and it makes his heart rejoice. It sounds to him like her mother's voice, singing in paradise. He needs must think of her once more, how in the grave she lies, and with his hard, rough hand he wipes a tear out of his eyes. Toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing, onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begin, each evening sees it close. Something attempted, something done. He has earned a night's repose. Thanks, thanks to thee, my worthy friend, for the lesson thou hast taught. Thus at the flaming forge of life, our fortunes must be wrought. Thus on the sounding anvil shaped, each burning deed and thought.
Woo woo.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll catch you members a little later this evening.
And all you scum. Vengeance. Oh,
I'm
cool.
afraid he did get teased about this one.
He got teased a little
Yeah,
bit.
so he
Oh.
probably has a right to say that.
Thanks, Troy. He said now it's ruined because my face has got it here. Darn. So, all right, everybody.
Weird.
So, you guys take care. God bless you all, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you members later tonight. I don't know how you do the thing. Do the thing.
Do the thing. We'll flip it around first.
Ah!
We'll find the exit.
I think it's the X button up there, ain't it?
Okay.
Yeah. Did I figure it out?
This is like the lingering close that never ends.
We will be leaving you all eventually. No, that's like the share button. What is
Oh.
this? There we go. Yeah, there we go. Bye, everyone.